Welcome all to this afternoon's Springboard session. My name is Geraldine Carroll and I'm Professional Education Manager in Graduate and Professional Studies at UL. While the last few join, I'll take the time to cover housekeeping. Firstly, this event is being recorded and I would appreciate it if you could keep your mic muted. Your comments and questions can be posted to the chat throughout the session and will be directed to presenters at the end. Everyone in attendance today will receive a follow-up email with a link to the recorded presentation. We have an excellent panel of experts today, leading off with Fiona Keogh, the Learning and Organisational Development Manager at Analog Devices, followed by Michael Hennessy, Head of the Flexible Learning Centre at the Faculty of Science and Engineering, Dr. Caroline Murphy, Lecturer in Employment Relations, Yvonne Delaney, the Head of Management and Development Unit at UL, Professor Ray Friel, Head of the School of Law, and finally Helen Brown, Employer Engagement for Professional Education at UL. So let's talk about why you are here today. There are a number of push and pull factors influencing individuals in deciding to re-engage with education, and certainly increasing your earning potential is a significant driver. In fact, according to the Higher Ed Stats Agency in the UK, postgrads earn on average 18% more than first degree holders 6 months after graduation. A report from McKinsey in March of this year notes that by 2030, 100 million workers, or 1 in 16, will need to switch occupational categories due to advances in e-commerce and automation. So that's 25% higher than pre-pandemic stats. Reskilling and upskilling can drive organisational competitiveness, but also your career progression and networking. The global conversation around lifelong learning and various government incentives have certainly made upskilling more affordable. And as we will hear today, Springboard has made a significant impact on the accessibility and affordability of further education for many students. So what is Springboard? For those who are new to Springboard, Springboard Plus is a government-funded upskilling initiative in higher ed, offering free and subsidised courses at cert, degree and master's level, leading to qualifications in areas where there are employment opportunities in the economy. Springboard Plus is co-funded by the Government of Ireland and the European Social Fund as part of the ESF programme for employability, inclusion and learning. And there's a strong Springboard legacy at UL. We have doubled funding on behalf of UL students in the last 5 years, and our Springboard offering has been developed and proposed in line with regional and national skill and talent gaps as advised by our industry partners. We strive to embed Springboard programmes at UL throughout our learning pathways at certificate, professional diploma and master's level. This means that as part of a funded programme, a student may be part of a learning pathway with flexible entry routes and multiple starting points. Learning pathways are hugely important, as while we have students opting to take full-time masters straight after undergrad, we also have students opting to work towards a master's or a professional diploma part-time and primarily online. We also recognise that we have professional students without an undergrad degree who want to top up to a degree level while they work. I would strongly recommend for those interested in learning pathways at UL, including the alternative route to masters, to watch our recent UL at Work webinar that talks about new programmes for 2021 to 2024 under the Human Capital Initiative, including micro-credentials, professional diplomas and top-up degrees, and the webinar link to that chat, to that particular session will be posted in the chat. So today we will discuss UL's approved Springboard programmes from our Faculty of Science and Engineering, Human Resources, Management and Development Unit and our School of Law. But firstly, let's change perspective for a moment and examine Springboard from a company point of view. Fiona, thank you for joining our session today. As a consistent supporter and beneficiary of Springboard, Analog can bring significant insight to the value of Springboard in an organisation and also advise colleagues on how best to leverage upskilling opportunities like Springboard.
Thanks, Ger, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm delighted to be able to contribute to today's conversation, so thanks so much for the invitation to participate. Just before I kick off, I have a couple of slides, but just maybe for the benefit of anybody on the call who's not familiar with analog devices, just maybe a little bit of background information. So I suppose Analog Devices is an American multinational semiconductor company. We're based in Limerick and Cork, and we've got about 1,300 employees. Our core business is the design and manufacture of integrated circuits. We've existed for more than 50 years now at this stage under the stability of just 3 CEOs. And in fact, our current CEO, Vince Roach, is a former graduate of the University of Limerick. So I suppose in talking about, the impact of Springboard on ADI, it's really important to maybe set the scene in relation to ADI's value and commitment really to people development. So ADI was founded in 1965 on the principles of innovation, excellence, collaboration, but most importantly, lifelong learning. And that still is very critical for us today. We follow a very simple equation. We hire great people, we invest in their potential, we help them learn at every stage of their career, because we really do know that people are our most valuable asset. That culture then is supported by a common set of values. So amongst others, we foster innovation and lifelong learning, and we also develop people to their full potential. So in terms of commitment to people development at the highest levels of the organisation is critical to enabling that culture of learning, and it's a primary responsibility throughout ADI. So there's a quote there from our co-founder, Ray Stata. It's over 40 years old, but it really does set the tone, and it has enabled a culture of learning throughout the organisation. The quote there from Vince, that really focuses and talks about the speed at which we learn and adapt, and how people are the force that drives ADI forward, keeping us at the leading edge. This in turn then has influenced our learning and development philosophy, which is one of training, education and development for all employees. So in talking about the value of Springboard to ADI, it would be very fair to say that we have an extensive continuing education programme already in place at ADI, where employees can pursue continuing education at third level, fully sponsored by the company. Over the last 10 years, we've probably had over 400 employees complete third level education. And for ADI, Springboard Plus doesn't replace that programme, rather it actually enhances that programme. So I think the main thing for us is that it really does align very nicely with one of the key targets set out in the Action Plan for Education, which includes an ambition to increase Ireland's lifelong learning participation rate to 15% by 2025. I guess from an industry perspective, Springboard really does allow you to stretch your L&OD budget that little bit further, particularly when you're only paying 10% of the overall programme cost. It also aids in staff retention. And while being approved for Springboard funding, it is a little bit of a lottery. If an employee is unsuccessful and where the programme, if it is deemed to be a good fit, then ADI will fully fund the programme cost and facilitate the employee in pursuing that programme. So the majority of our employees we find that do pursue continuing education will end up changing job role. They do take control of their development, and then they craft that development to really suit their career goals. And in turn, that offers us an internal talent pipeline and a pool of, I suppose, very knowledgeable employees as well. The interesting thing as well is that, Springboard is accessible to all, particularly those who have been out of education for a while. I think entry at level 6 allows people who have been away from formal education to slowly gain confidence, and generally we find that once people start, they do indeed find it very, very difficult to stop. I think as well the way in which the programmes are delivered, it's a very good fit for those in employment or those with family commitments. We operate multiple shift patterns, and we as an organisation have noticed a decrease in the amount of time needed by employees to be away from their job to attend classes. And this in general is taking a lot of pressure off employees. So that tailored delivery is really, really important. So why choose Springboard? So if I look at it from an organisational context, the upskilling of employees really does create an agile, change-ready workforce, enabling the organisation to pivot and adapt. And the pace of change we know will never be as slow as it is today. A transferable skill set is a very valuable asset. The new model then for continued professional development is about employees being proactive about their learning. Employees want to have the skills to do the job, and they want to understand how their contributions support the purpose of the business. What I like about Springboard as well is the diversity of the offerings, the diversity of the participants, and this is a lot of feedback that we would have gotten from our employees as well. The exposure to different thinking, because you're, I suppose, participating in assignments with a cross-function variety of people. There's also the flexible delivery, and as we all know, it's extremely cost effective. So I've captured a couple of the programs that some of our employees have participated in. We probably have in excess of maybe 20 people who've participated in Springboard programs. That's probably a very conservative figure because a lot of employees may not tell you that they're pursuing a Springboard program. So again, a conservative figure based on what we do know. I think as well an important part in this in terms of choosing Springboard is that the National Training Fund levy has increased to 1% to financially support higher and further education to meet the future needs of the economy over the coming years. And I think as a result, these programs are available to industry and should be leveraged for that reason. When we talk about, the participation, we get great feedback from our employees. The flexible delivery is a huge plus, particularly for those employees with family commitments. And I think as well, in terms of the cost effectiveness of Springboard, this is a plus for employees who are thinking about a complete career shift and how to finance the upskilling for this. So all in all, we've had a very positive experience from an ADI perspective in terms of our interactions with Springboard. When we talk about maybe some key learnings or takeaways that we as an organisation have had, the things that we have, I suppose, gotten better at over the last couple of years would be integrating Springboard and Springboard opportunities with existing people development strategies. So we're using it as a pathway for development. I think it's key for employers to engage with institutions through industry academia groups to input into perhaps future offerings that are aligned with your industry needs. And I think that really does complement how you would devise your people development strategy going forward. The importance of advertising Springboard offerings and making that upskilling part of performance planning discussions. Often Springboard could be happening in isolation. Employees may be pursuing programs and not having those conversations internally. So we have found that there's great benefit in doing that. In terms of advertising the programs, it's important to maybe consider the planning. Planning really is key. So programs commence in January, sometimes they commence in September. So it's important to have a very good handle on that because not all employees are going to be informed as to that. So I think from my perspective, I feel that it's a key element of my role to educate the workforce in relation to what's out there in terms of Springboard offerings. I think as well, you need to be prepared to provide additional supports as an organisation. So for example, if there's recognition of prior learning or demonstrating work-based experience, then you may need to support employees insofar as how they would pull all of that detail together. You may also need to complement some of the learning with some grinds to offer further support. And as an organisation, that's something that we engage in parallel while people are pursuing the programmes as well. I think most of the programmes will require a work-based project, and I think it's important to use this as an opportunity to align those projects with key initiatives and create meaningful learning opportunities for all. And I think as well, it's important for employees to celebrate the success of their peers because it does really promote lifelong learning. And internally, it's important to recognise and celebrate the achievement of all. So there's some of the key things that we've learned, some of the things that we strive to get better at. And I suppose at the end of the day, we've seen significant benefit in terms of supporting Springboard, and we see that from the development of our employees and the development of the organisation as a whole. So that's pretty much our contribution from ADI.
Thanks, Fiona. Thanks, Fiona. Some strong messages there in investing in talent and lifelong learning. And on that topic and the topic of learning pathways, Mike, can I bring you in here? We've been developing our learning pathways at UL to facilitate students at work. Can you tell me about Springboard Science and Engineering flexible programs and how these allow professional students to continue on their learning journey?
Geraldine, I can indeed, definitely, and I'm glad to see that ADI have participated in a broad range of programs. And this year, we have two streams of programs. We have a set at certificate level, which would be level 7 and level 8, introductory skills development, and then we have a suite of professional diplomas at level 9, which some are introductions and others would be further career development. So in terms of the certificate side of the house, the digital fabrication and design and manufacturing is looking at smart manufacturing, but in a very hands-on way with our School of Design in the studio. So things like using 3D printers, CAD machines, laser cutters to investigate how smart manufacturing happens. Then there is a certificate in computing for secure mobile applications, and we're never more aware at the moment as to mobile security and general cyber security. And this is focusing on those who would have some software development skills but want to get into the area of developing mobile apps that are secure and safe to use. And then the third one, which is an interesting one, is workplace transversal skills. And that is very much very important around developing lifelong learning skills and potentials for people, soft skills, to allow people to transition to new areas of work or to upskill into, higher level management or supervisory roles within their organization. Then on the professional diploma side, these are subject specific. So we've airworthiness, looking at maintenance and helping to develop skills or make sure that aircraft stay flying safely. So you'd want an aeronautical background. The embedded systems engineering, again, for people who have a software background, who want to look at lots of products now. Physical products have software embedded in them that allow them to function, your smartwatch, that sort of stuff. And how do you get those systems to do that? The smart electricity meters that are being rolled out now, they have software. So somebody has to design the software that works in that environment. A more general program then would be health and safety. So it would be suitable for anyone who has an interest in health and safety and might have an interest in advancing in their career in that area. So that's quite an interesting program led by industry practitioners and has been very popular. Another program is the Lean Systems program. So that's all about quality, improvement of processes, and that would allow people with an interest in improvement and quality areas to develop their skills in that area. Another one is very topical and has proved very popular, is the regulatory affairs in biopharmaceuticals. That is, we have a very strong biopharmaceutical sector in Ireland, but most of the regulatory affairs was done in the UK, and with Brexit now more and more of that is becoming work for the Irish operation for the EU market. So there is a growth area in that, and this covers everything that makes sure that the product that is produced is efficacious, works well, is safe to use, and is approved. And as we can see with the COVID vaccines, the process can be sped up, but it must maintain its rigor in order to ensure safety. And then the sixth professional diploma we have is in supply chain management, which gives a good broad understanding of the whole supply chain, and this is part of a suite of programs available under Springboard that Yvonne will talk to later. But the whole supply chain is key to getting a product off the concept stage, manufactured, transported, sold, serviced, and that's very interesting at the moment, particularly with all that's going on in terms of delays in shipments and scarcity of raw materials. So why are these programs important? Well, firstly, the transversal skills is one of the first programs of its kind, looking to develop professional and personal competencies for people who are considering changing their career or who want to return to the workforce after being out for a time. So while it's not subject specific, it is going to cover a lot of areas that will help people to develop their professional skills, a sense of personal agency and confidence in their abilities to problem solve, understand teams and cultural diversity, remote working, having a productive and healthy work-life balance. So we're quite pleased that that was funded and are really looking forward to rolling that out. The other then thing is we've had 6 professional diplomas funded, and these can provide a route to the individualized masters that Geraldine was talking about in the learning pathways. And just to recap on what a professional diploma is, it is a 1/3 of a master's. It is subject specific. So you can see from the 6 titles, they're very focused. It's an award in its own right. So while you're on a master's route, you're not committing to the 2 or 3 years it takes to get a master's. It gives you an opportunity that if you want to go on and build your own master's, that there is a route there to do that. And within the University of Limerick, we have a route that's currently available that will allow people to combine 2 professional diplomas and a thesis or capstone project and come out with an MSc in engineering practice. And at the moment, UL have over 20 professional diplomas available in a wide range of areas. So I think there's something like over 200 combinations of professional diplomas in that list there, so that there is definitely something that someone could customize their own career needs and learning pathway with. And I suppose the next step that I would advise people is to take a look at the Springboard courses that are available. If you have any queries, send an email to springboard@ul.ie, and we're more than happy to talk to people and give them advice. So Geraldine, I hope that gives an overview of our learning pathway with Springboard.
Thanks, Mike. A great overview, and great to see science and engineering accommodating both the hard technical skills and the soft transversal skills needed under Springboard, something that ADI called out as particularly important for staff development. So I'll bring in Caroline now. Caroline, the pandemic has brought unique challenges for remote workers and managers and a need for a new approach to staff management. Can you describe how the Springboard HR programs support upskilling within the HRM sector?
Sure, thanks Geraldine. Yes, certainly the pandemic has meant that HR professionals and managers have needed to configure their organisational systems and processes to adjust to remote working and the other challenges the pandemic has brought. But as we emerge from the pandemic, even more transition is going to be required in organisations. Therefore, both HR professionals and managers with the knowledge and skills needed to successfully manage workforce transitions will continue to be a really vital resource for organisations. Adjusting to new working environments creates challenges for employees and for management teams. So an understanding and appreciation of human behaviour at work is critical. While a lot has changed in how we work during the pandemic, the basic theories, concepts and skills required to motivate staff, to manage performance and to resolve conflict remain unchanged despite the altered context. So at the Department of Work and Employment Studies in the Keogh Business School, we offer a suite of programmes in human resource management designed to equip learners with the knowledge and skills needed to deliver effective HR leadership in both traditional and hybrid working environments. So for the coming academic year 21-22, we are offering 2 programmes under the Springboard funding model. These programs are both delivered midweek evenings on the UL campus. The first program is our Higher Certificate Level 6 program in Supervisory Management and HR Practice. And here there's a really strong emphasis on skills development necessary for people management. Things like conducting recruitment interviews, dealing with grievance and discipline at work, developing training programs, and of course all the while focusing on how these kinds of skills are used in a face-to-face work context, but are also used in a remote working environment. There are 4 modules per semester on the Higher Certificate program. The Diploma program, which is a level 7, has a slightly greater emphasis on managing performance at work, but also on helping participants gain a broader understanding of the business and organisational environment and context. And there's a slightly higher workload in that module, where it is 5 modules per semester. Both of the programs are accredited by the CIPD, which is the recognised professional body for the HR profession in both Britain and Ireland. And that's a really important qualification to have going out into the labour market. The programs are on offer from September, but obviously they are very popular programs and have been quite popular in the past. So we would urge anybody interested in applying to apply early. We have a dedicated email address where people can email the team if they have any queries or questions about the application or the process, and that's hrmprograms@ul.ie. Thanks, Geraldine.
Thanks, Geraldine. Yvonne, Caroline has talked about the need to transition and change environments. Can you talk about the significance of effective supply chains and procurement of goods and services for organisational competitiveness? And just tell us a bit about how the MDU at UL are supporting upskilling in these areas.
Thank you, Geraldine, and thank you, Caroline. Yes, the importance here with the Management Development Unit is the 2 programs that are supported by Springboard are really to support novice learners and provide, as Michael referred to earlier, as a pathway to help people that wanted to pursue a supply chain career could get in at an entry level. And I'm delighted to see with Fiona's presentation that ADI have actually supported us over the last number of years with one of the programs that is supported today through Springboard, which is the Certificate in Supply Chain Management. The Certificate in Supply Chain Management and the Public Procurement programs are actually delivered using bite-sized delivery. What we do is we deliver the programs during the day, online, or in the evening online. We also make sure we deliver on a modular basis, and as Michael referred to there, we're very conscious of people holding down full-time jobs. So what we try to do is we deliver them on a modular basis, and we deliver 1 module at a time. We introduce simulation so that we replicate the workplace as best we can. Then we base our programs really on gold standards, which is the APEX and the ASCM gold standard. And more importantly, one of the programs that is funded through Springboard today, our Procurement Certificate in Management, has won 3 awards over the last 2 years. So the particular programs I'll just cover now, they are both at a higher level certificate. The very first one, Certificate in Supply Chain and Production Inventory Control. The entry level for this is roughly a leaving certificate with a number of, say, 2 to 3 years experience. It has 4 modules per semester. And also in the summer semester, you will have 2 modules. So overall, you will have 10 modules throughout the 3 semesters that you will be the program will be delivered. With regard to the content, we look at theories, modules, we look at the functions, we look at problem solving. We try to introduce the concept of problem-based learning because we know all the supply chain professionals will have to manage problems as they proceed. With regard to the public procurement, the focus here is on purchasing. And again, you have 4 modules per semester and 2 modules in a summer semester. The entry level is level 6, NFQL. But again, what we try to do is we try to bring practical experience into the classroom. We try to apply the theory that the students would be bringing into the classroom, because we're conscious that all our students are working full time and trying to hold down, probably a work-life balance situation as best they can. Now, if you would like to contact us, the next steps are you can contact GPS at Springboard, or we have a dedicated member of staff in the Management Development Unit, Nessa O'Donovan, and you can contact her with any of your queries. And I'd like just to thank Springboard for their sponsorship of these programs and hand you back to Geraldine.
Thank you, Yvonne. I'd like to bring in Ray now. Ray, we're seeing clear internal and external disruption and change across global environments. In terms of global trading landscape, for example, Brexit, it has brought new and challenging a trading reality for thousands of enterprises. At the same time, enterprises striving to support diversity and equality and create integrated work environments for their staff. So can you talk to us about upskilling in the School of Law to meet these challenges?
Hi, Geraldine. Thanks very much for that. And you're absolutely right. You've mentioned two areas there which I think are of significant concern. But in a sense, I think taking a broader picture on this first, it's important to recognize what the legal environment is, and that no matter what we do, and we've talked about a lot of things in terms of HR and the various different science and engineering programs, there is a legal environment within which we work nowadays, and it's extremely important that we understand that in different forms. And the reason for that, I think, is twofold. There is a proactive element to it. It's important that we make certain we stick with these legal rules, with this legal environment. And there's also a reactive concept of, well, suppose we mess up, what are going to be the consequences of that? And I think the important element that we try to see in the law school is the ability to use legal skills proactively, leave them messing up to some extent to the lawyers to fix, and instead move on to looking at how you can prevent getting into problems in the first place. And I think it's important that we do that proactively, because we want people to do the right thing. And that maximizes the efficiency and reduces the costs which are there for, say, transactions or for interactions with other people. And of course, it enables us to prepare for the worst as well. And in the law school, we've always been convinced that our role is not exclusively that of creating lawyers. And certainly none of these programs are designed to create mini lawyers. What you're looking for are the creation of people with the necessary skills and understanding of legal issues, that they can valuably contribute to the workplace and to their own career path as well. And so it's about increasing your value to existing or potential employers and asking the right sort of questions. For many years now, the law school has focused and specialized on training non-lawyers as well as the lawyers. And so we never assume any prior legal knowledge. And we deal with a large number of stakeholders across a variety of different disciplines. And what we do is we bring them together and we take them from the very beginning and we give them the skills that they need. And we do that. Currently, we're increasing the range of programs that we're offering, including things such as professional diplomas in law and technology, commercial and environmental law. But today, we're looking at the two programs which are being funded under Springboard and that show the broad range in which the law school interacts. And so I want to talk today about first a graduate certificate in equality, diversity and inclusion, and then finally, Geraldine, I'll get to answering your question about international trade and Brexit and so on in the professional diploma in trade law. In the graduate certificate, this is designed to give a broad interdisciplinary approach to understand not only the legal ramifications of equality, diversity and inclusion, but more importantly, the cultural and linguistic elements that sometimes prevent us from being as inclusive as we require. And that's not simply just in workplace, but also in all sorts of our activities during our lifetime. And this program is designed, as I say, over 5 modules for about 2 semesters, and it includes obviously the importance and how you strive to achieve equality and diversity in the workplace, how language affects our perspectives in terms of inclusion and exclusion of people, both in organizations and in other entities. The role that human rights law plays in all of this is crucially important as well. So there's another legal aspect to it there. And then there's that capstone sort of hands-on module that we talked about, that integration of practice and theory. equality in practice, looking at what's happening in individual organizations, looking at case studies and seeing how they have benefited or not from the proper approach. And so that's really a very all-round approach to equality, diversion, and inclusion, one of the key elements of society as we move forward. But to finally get to your question, Geraldine, about international trade, the other offering under Springboard is the professional diploma. And this professional diploma in international trade law is a crucial element. Going forward, as we've seen with the changes in terms of Brexit, and more importantly, the different growth of regional trading blocs. People may have seen, for example, recent UK-Australian trade agreement being signed, the Trans-Pacific trade agreement coming into effect, the arguments between the United States and the European Union. And so this is what the international trade law module tries to do. It tries to help us understand the international legal environment from business and the concept of trading across jurisdictions, but at a very practical level. The modules that you'll be taking are very transactionally focused. So if we look at international business transactions, we start to see how you actually craft a contract to sell goods across the border, wherever that is to, what the consequences of it are, the tariffs and various other duties associated, how you finance it, how you transfer money, and so on like that. The international trade organizations I've already mentioned, like the European Union, the WTO, and also how you might structure corporate entities. Before finishing up with the idea of what's increasingly important, things like anti-money laundering, bribery and corruption, and of course focusing on that all-important sausage issue from the Northern Ireland Protocol, the idea essentially of how is the European Union, which is now us, going to learn to trade under these new provisions with the UK and in particular the protocol. So that, I hope, gives you an insight into the sort of legal approach that we take. The next steps for anybody who's interested in this is to apply or to send an email through the dedicated Springboard system as well. And of course, any email sent to law@ul.ie will also be responded to as well. So Geraldine, I hope that's answered some of your questions, and thank you very much for having the opportunity here today to give this presentation.
Ray, thank you. School of Law there demonstrating some real work-ready learning for real current world scenarios. Helen, a clear understanding of Springboard eligibility criteria and benefits to graduating students would really help interested applicants attending the session today. Could you describe, especially for those new to Springboard, who is eligible and talk about the career advantages in taking a Springboard programme?
Thanks, Chair. First of all, you can apply for a Springboard programme if you are a returner, and by this we mean that you've stepped out of the workforce to take on caring duties, or you're economically dependent on a partner or spouse for 9 of the previous 12 months. If you're employed, working either for yourself or for somebody else, formerly self-employed, unemployed and receiving a qualifying welfare payment from the Department of Social Protection. If you fit into any of these categories, you must also meet other criteria, which are: you must be living in the Republic of Ireland, you must have your own valid PPS number, you must have lived in either the EU, the EEA, the UK or Switzerland for at least 3 out of the last 5 years, and you must meet the nationality and visa requirements. Now, there's quite a number of criteria around the nationality and visas, so it's advised to please check these on the Springboard Plus site at this link below. So if you're going to apply to UL for a Springboard programme, it's a 2-step process. The first step is to register on Springboard Plus and activate your account, and then you will be able to log in and apply for a particular programme, or in some cases multiple programmes. You'll be then sent a link via email to apply to the University of Limerick directly. The second step is your application actually to the University of Limerick, and at this stage you will be asked to upload the required documentation. We have an amazing admissions team here. However, if they don't receive your documents, they can't progress your application. So what do you need? So we require that you have a photo or scanned original copy of your transcripts for all of your years of study. However, if you are a graduate of UL, you only need to provide us with your student ID number. We need a photo or scanned copy of your passport to verify your ID and full legal name. Applicants who don't have English as their first language must satisfy English language requirements. If your programme involves an industry learning placement, we will require a copy of your of the most recent CV that you have. And we will need proof of status, whether you're unemployed, employed, self-employed or a returner. And acceptable documents for proof of status can be found at the Springboard's eligibility site. We will need to correspond with you throughout this whole application process. So for this reason, we please ask you to check your email and check in particular your spam folders regularly. Jerry, you also asked about the benefits of Springboard and what it brings to an individual and an organisation. As Fiona said, from an organisational point of view, it offers work-ready graduates and allows companies to upskill key staff in a very cost-effective manner. The funding initiative also has huge impact on training budgets of many companies, and it has allowed students who are self-funding their education to avail of quality programmes at hugely reduced fees. Matching academic excellence with industry relevance has always been key to the success of our Springboard programmes. We design our programmes in collaboration with industry to ensure that the needs of the organisation are met and are in real time, and we're producing the graduates that actually industry wants. Springboard programmes are very flexible. They allow students to study at their own pace and time that suits them, and this is critical for maintaining a healthy work-study life balance for our students. And one of the key things that we hear from students is the most beneficial thing they've found from our programmes is the network that they develop while undertaking these programmes. This broadening of their professional networks builds confidence within their workplace to take on bigger challenges and drive major initiatives within their role. And I suppose lastly, I'd like to highlight that while these programmes are hugely beneficial to your career, they can be a great source of fun and of personal achievement. So, Ger, I hope I answered your question in enough detail there.
You did, Helen, thanks, that's fantastic. And actually, I might just bring Fiona from Analog back in as a previous UL learner yourself, Fiona. Is there anything personally you'd like to highlight in terms of getting back to study again and maybe offering advice to those contemplating same?
Yeah, Ger, thanks. I guess I was always eager to return to formal education, but to be honest, a full master's, it just didn't appeal to me with a busy job and a lot of family commitments. But I think, you know, in terms of the Springboard offering, the specialist diplomas were right up my street, and they really appealed to me as a learner. You know, a broad range of topics. It really suited the diversity of my role, and I could sort of see a pathway to a master's whereby I could do maybe 2 that would complement my role in any future role I wanted to do, and enable me maybe to proceed on and attain that master's qualification, but in a way that sort of worked for me. I guess like most people, I have limited time, so it's important that the material and content, you know, they need to be accessible. I need to be able to put it into practice. So I completed my first specialist diploma last year. I've just finished the first semester of my second one. It's been a really valuable experience for me and ADI, and I definitely wouldn't rule out a third one if you'll have me. Thanks.
Thanks, Fiona, a very busy woman. Okay, well, look, there's some questions that are collected here in the chat, so I might just go to the Q&A part of the session today. So the first question here I will maybe direct to Yvonne, and it's how much time should I allocate to study per week, Yvonne? You're just on mute there, Yvonne.
Oh yeah, sorry about that. Thank you very much. Yes, Geraldine, and the answer to that is it varies, but to answer Fiona's question there, we'd love to have you back, Fiona. However, it's a variety of time. It depends. It just depends on the individual. Somebody might come to supply chain, say, take for example, I'll use my own examples, the certificate in supply chain. They may come to that with years and years of experience. They will find they will have to spend maybe limited time on developing the, you know, or say embracing the content, whereas somebody who would have been a very novice user coming into the supply chain might have to dedicate longer time. But in a nutshell, I would suspect that you're talking about maybe at least 3 hours of study every week. And also, we deliver on a bite-sized basis, and many of you have talked there about, work commitments, work-life balance. And because we deliver on a bite size, we would deliver during the week, in the morning online, or in the evening online. So you would have that dedicated time for study, maybe an hour and a half during the week, and then maybe 3 hours at the weekend. So it does vary, but generally speaking, about 3 hours on top of your delivery time during the week. I hope that answers the question, Geraldine.
Thanks, Yvonne. That's very useful. I might direct a couple of questions now to Mike next. Will there be sit-down exams, and to what extent will we need to work in groups?
Okay, Ger. The aspect of the focus of the programs are all on skills development and working together. So there is an element of group work because none of us work in isolation. But you'll be told that by the tutor or the lecturer at the start of each module how they're going to assess the program, whether there's going to be discussion boards, assignments, or group work. So that's on a case-by-case basis. Now, the majority of our programs don't have sit-down exams, but there are some programs that do. And again, as I said, the tutors at the beginning of the modules will tell you what the assessment method is going to be. But overall, the design of the programs is around skills development and helping people to learn. So it isn't a case of there's going to be an end-term exam to trick or catch people out. The tutors are all there to help and support, and you'll be guided around what you should study and the assignments and the group work. So that's all on that.
Thanks, Micah. And actually, I might stay with you because there's another question here on supply chain and lean. So is there a preclusion on applicants currently working in a non-manufacturing industry applying for supply chain management or lean courses?
No, there isn't. Lean is a whole concept of quality that is applicable in service and in as much as it is in manufacturing. So, we have had a very broad range of people on lean. So definitely no. If you have a process, you can do lean, regardless of what that is. The supply chain is a little more technical. But it's still also open to people who wouldn't be in a manufacturing area. We've had people from the HSE on the program, and they found it very useful in terms of demand management for the services that they're offering. So both of those programs would be suitable for people in a non-manufacturing. But feel free to get in touch and I can have a more detailed conversation.
Excellent. Thanks, Mike, for that. And just to say that the Springboard programs have just opened today at 12 o'clock for applications. So this event is very timely, and obviously our web pages are following suit, our UL's web page. So if you've checked yesterday and you're only allowed to view a program or express interest, do check back today in the afternoon, and you should be able to get more information and apply. There's a couple of questions here I might direct to you, Helen. I have completed a Springboard Plus course in previous academic years. Can I do another one? And can I do more than one course at the same time?
Okay, Ger. So to address the first one, yes, you can, but there are some restrictions. If you've taken more than 3 courses in the previous 5 years, you won't be eligible, but you will be able to take a Springboard programme again after 2 years. Other restrictions would be that if you fail to successfully complete more than 2 Springboard courses at any time, you won't be eligible. If you've taken 2 in the past but were unsuccessful in the second, again, you're ineligible to apply. And I suppose one of the key things to mention is that priority is given to applicants who are long-term unemployed, and to those that haven't taken a Springboard course before. Now, to address your second question, Ger, unfortunately, you can only complete 1 Springboard course in 1 academic year.
Okay, and Helen, I might stay with you just as another question here. If I accept an offer of a place on a course, can I still be offered places on other Springboard courses I have applied to?
Okay, once you accept an offer of a place, your application your other applications will be automatically cancelled. So it's really very important that you consider your choices carefully before making your final decision, because once you accept an offer, the rest will be cancelled.
Okay, yeah, that's important to note. There's another question here, and Mike, I might go back to you. Can I get recognition of my work-based experience and learning to apply for Springboard courses?
Geraldine, you can. Yes, recognition of prior learning is a core element in the application process. It is a case-by-case basis. So what I would advise is that you pick the course that you're interested in, you make contact and have a discussion with the course director, and they will be able to advise you. But recognition of prior learning is something that we do in the University of Limerick. So don't let the fact that you don't have the qualifications explicitly listed on the application to put you off making an inquiry.
Thanks, Mike. And there's a HR related query here I might direct to Caroline. If you do not have a qualification in HR, can you apply for HR management?
So the certificate program does not require a background in HR management, so you could absolutely apply for that for sure for the level 6 program. Yeah.
Great, thank you, Caroline. Another one here. Helen, if I'm unsuccessful with Springboard, is there any other funding available?
Absolutely, Ger. If you're unsuccessful with Springboard and you're working for a private company, not the public sector, you can avail of SkillNet funding. So I would really encourage people, if they are unsuccessful, to reach out to us, and we can potentially look for funding for their programs through SkillNet. A lot of companies are actually affiliated to their own sectoral SkillNet anyway, but if they're not, we're happy to help them in any way we can to secure some bit of it's partial funding. It's not as much as Springboard, but it certainly is goes a long way towards paying the fees.
Thanks, Helen. I might direct another question here now to Yvonne, and I'm on a current Springboard course which completes at the end of the summer. Can I apply for a Springboard 2020-21 course?
Thank you, Geraldine. Geraldine, the situation with regard to that is if an applicant goes on to the Springboard programs and tries to apply now, the message they will receive is you are on an existing program, and the existing program does not conclude until the end of August, at which stage the Springboard applications will be closed for say the summer intake or for the September intake. My advice is the best option is to apply for any January intake programs, because they simply won't have completed their course because it has 3 semesters, and so January really is the best option for them.
Thanks, Yvonne. There's one final question here I might take because we're coming up to time, and I might bounce that back to Helen. Helen, if you have already applied to a course in UL in which is now receiving Springboard funding, what should you do next?
I would say hold tight. The course admins will be in contact with you to advise you if you would like to apply first through the Springboard site. Now, unfortunately, you'll have to apply again through Springboard Plus, but the great thing is that if you have already applied through UL, your documentation will be there, and you just need to let the particular department know that you have applied already as a UL fee-paying student, and they can access your documentation at that stage. You don't actually have to go through the whole process again of uploading your documentation.
Excellent. Okay, thanks for that clarification, Helen. Look, we're coming up to time, so I'd just like to thank the panel today for your availability and fantastic insights. So in summary, we hope you'll take away with you a stronger awareness of Springboard and associated funded programmes at UL. As we've said, you need to apply at springboardcourses.ie, linked in the chat, and subsequently you receive a link to complete your application within UL. And as always, we're collaborating with and will continue to collaborate with industry partners to set professionals up for success via our flexible, accessible, short programmes aligned with workplace-based priorities. So whether that's through Springboard or through the UL at Work project. And just again, I'd remind you of the previous webinar detailing our various learning pathways and new programmes through UL at Work, also linked in the chat. Finally, can I just highlight a second regional Springboard event? The Midwest Regional Skills Forum Springboard session is scheduled for Monday the 28th of June at 2 p.m. This is run by Regional Skills Manager Joe Ledden. We'll be there with our colleagues in LIT presenting our option. The link is in the chat. So thank you for your attendance today. A copy of the slides with the link to this recording will be distributed to all in attendance, so feel free to share. And we look forward to welcoming some of you as students in the not so distant future. So thank you for joining us today and goodbye.